It's our most tweeted story of the day. A 10-year-old charged as an adult for the beating death of an elderly 90-year-old woman.
I'm not justifying his behavior. It's abhorrent. We've got to get to the bottom of it. But to spend decades in prison, a 10-year-old, I don't get it.
I have to say, Dr. Drew, there's something deeper, maybe a psychological issue, a sinister issue, perhaps. He's a young man. I don't know if jail for life is the answer, but I think we have a serious problem here with this young man.
There is such a thing as institutions for the criminally insane. There are such places, and when kids have infections in their brain, they have certain genetic proclivities, they have certain environmental experiences, any of these things can add up to really serious lifetime trouble.
There are so many neurobiological markers when it shows up this young. They're very, very hard to rehabilitate. There are serotonin problems with the prefrontal cortex, low skin conductance, so they're always going to want to seek excitement in a dangerous way.
Blood pooling, raccoon eyes, scalp separation, obviously. How much force, excessive force, did this mother use?
That white thing on top of the cranium there is a very thick covering that then on top of that goes the skin and the hair. And if you pull it real hard, you'll cause that thick sheath to to lift up off the skull, and blood forms between the skull and that thick sheath.
It's not a simple matter of just pulling the hair and disciplining your child. You have to have such force and such anger and rage when you're pulling that hair to actually separate it from her skull. That's abusive.
Allison,
the problem is we seek to repeat or repair that which we learned in childhood, and unfortunately, you know, when you get overwhelmed or angry or whatever it is, this is the behavior that she learned.
This is abuse. This is not okay to parent this way. Even when people go, well, that's how I was parented. What's the big deal? I mean, that argument is getting old, and it is flawed. It's fallacious. It is ridiculous.
An 8-year-old doesn't have the capacity to say whether he wants to die or not. And if he does, you don't then say, okay, I'm going to kill him.
This is a woman who may or may not have looked at her child as a personal and biological failure, which motivated and propelled her behavior to do all of these really insane, extreme things with him to cure him so he would be normal, because it's more a reflection of her.
Don't deny your diagnosis. I'm telling you something. If you go into denial when somebody has a clear diagnosis and it is agreed upon amongst multiple professionals, don't deny that. Don't think you know better than people that have spent their entire life dedicated to managing these things.
They know it's wrong, but they're doing it anyway. They know that what they're sending is something that they shouldn't be sending.
Children are going to do things, and I'm not...
They shame themselves.
No, they did not shame themselves. Every generation does something to show how sexual they are, show their sexual exploration. This is what this generation is doing. And people, what we need to stop doing is shaming them. We need to start creating sex-positive environments.
But
how are they shaming themselves? That is actually they feel empowered by doing that.
There is not enough education in school. It needs to be implemented into the curriculum, like a home ec, like a self-defense class, where they need to learn the consequences and the dangers of the digital media.
As I heard these stories, I think to myself about how much the best intentions by parents. I mean, we've all said on these panels that parents, teachers, that's where we really want it. We don't want law enforcement doing the parenting. We all agree on that, but my God, it is difficult to stay abreast of the technology. I think all the way back to the 70s when there was the first wave of all this was the so-called sexual revolution, and no one contemplated what it would be to foist that on adolescents. They didn't think it would happen. The same thing now is happening with technologies and phones. We've got to always think about what we do as adults, how it's going to affect our children, and particularly the adolescent population, that if you don't think they're going to pick it up, you think so at your peril.
This whole thing makes me want to take my son and move to an island where there's no internet. I have to be honest.
Nikki, don't worry. He'll find something there, too. Don't worry. It's a male. I'm sorry. You've got one.
She's providing a voice for animals who do experience fear and pain. If you watch any of those videos behind closed doors of those factory farms, those slaughterhouses, I think that you would absolutely commend her.
We're in a culture that devalues chickens and doesn't care about what they feel and what they want.
There is no species equality. Chickens and humans aren't on the same level. I don't know any chicken with a mortgage. I don't know any chicken with a car. I don't know any chicken that's trying to make it day to day at their job.